Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. Georgian President Zourabichvili has stated that she will remain at her Tbilisi residence and has voiced strong opposition to the inauguration of Mikheil Kavelashvili as the country's new head of state. Meanwhile, mass protests are underway outside the parliament building. The swearing ceremony of Mikheil Kavelashvili will soon begin in Tbilisi's parliament. Kavelashvili, elected as Georgia's sixth president by a ruling party-controlled electoral college on December 14th, has faced widespread rejection from opposition parties and Western leaders. President Zourabichvili has denounced the election process as unfair and dominated by the Georgian Dream Party. Public dissatisfaction has sparked anti-government demonstrations ongoing since November 28th. Additionally, the Georgian Dream Party has announced its decision to suspend talks on Georgia's potential EU membership until 2028. Protests in Georgia should focus on the residence of de facto leader President Zourabichvili rather than the parliament, according to Joshua Bergen from the Warsaw Security Forum, speaking to TVP World Talks. Bergen emphasized Russia's influence behind Georgia's unrest, stating that Moscow prefers its neighbors to remain outside NATO and the European Union.
The man is worth somewhere between $5 and $8 billion, something on the order of 25% of the Georgian GDP. And I've looked, and I can't see any comparable member of the Georgian society that has anywhere near that level of wealth. To that end, I think it's long past time for the United States to sanction him. I think I believe it's past time for the Georgians themselves to stop protesting at the parliament. I understand there's a long tradition there, but I also understand that Ivanishvili has a large industrial-looking house on the side of the hill overlooking the city. That's the point for protest, in my view. Well, Russia's classically wanted to have border states that protect it from anything outside of that area. You know, no thought being given to what the publics or the societies in those countries, how they wish to live, how they wish to be ruled. And it's obvious that many people in Georgia, just like many people in Ukraine, would much rather have to work under the rules of law, etc., that exist in the EU and in the West generally, versus having the thumb of Moscow always hanging over their head. This said, I mean, clearly, Russia has been manipulating Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine for a long time now, and the notion of bringing the borders into question was about damaging or diminishing those nation states' abilities to progress forward, either with EU relationships, NATO membership, etc., etc.
At least 122 people have died following the crash landing of a passenger jet carrying 175 passengers and 6 crew members at an airport in Muan, a county in southwestern South Korea. Dramatic footage of the incident show the plane sliding on its belly, crashing into an airport wall and disrupting in flames. Now, Korean officials attribute the disaster to a landing gear malfunction. The death toll is expected to rise as only 2 survivors, both crew members, had been rescued from the wreckage. Rescuers report minimal chances of finding additional survivors. This is a developing story and will continue to provide updates throughout the day. The Ukrainian government has reacted with outrage to Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico's threats to cut Ukraine off from EU supply of electricity. This escalation comes as tensions between Bratislava and Kyiv deepen over the issue of Russian gas transit through Ukraine. Our correspondent Oz Chatterjee is in Kyiv with the latest details.
The diplomatic row between Bratislava and Kyiv continued to escalate over the weekend after the Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico threatened to cut Ukraine off from EU-supplied electricity that is transited through Slovakia. In response to Kyiv's plan to halt Russian gas supplies transiting through Ukraine into the European Union, of which Slovakia receives a significant portion of. Now, this was threatened by Robert Fico in a Facebook message posted on Friday as a retaliatory response to Ukraine's plans. And this has drawn a furious response from the government here in Kyiv, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs urging the European Commission to look into Slovakia's threats, as Slovakia is a member of the single European energy market, and it has also drawn a furious response from President Zelensky, who put out a statement earlier in the day saying it appears Putin gave Fico the order to open a second energy front against Ukraine at the expense of the Slovak people's interests. He also put out a video statement to the Ukrainian people about it earlier on. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We are working with other neighbors in the EU, and I have instructed our government officials to do everything in their power in collaboration with the European Commission and all our partners in Europe to maintain the stability of the bloc's energy system. Whatever Putin may have told Prime Minister Fico during his visit to the Kremlin, European rules must prevail over any individual's ties to Moscow.
With Kyiv now set to halt Russian gas supplies heading into the European Union on the 1st of January, this diplomatic row seems set to continue to escalate. Sols Kataji reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
Russian energy giant Gazprom has announced it will halt natural gas deliveries to Moldova starting January 1st, citing unpaid debts. Moldovan authorities disputed these claims and accused Moscow of using gas as a political weapon. While Moldova sources its energy from other countries, Russian gas fuels a power plant in Transnistria, a breakaway region. This plant provides much of Moldova's electricity. The suspension could exacerbate the energy challenges in both Moldova and Transnistria. Moldova has announced plans to pursue legal action against Gazprom. The bodies of 3 crew members and 21 passengers who perished in the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash have been returned to Baku. Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued an apology for the tragic accident, which occurred in Russian airspace on Wednesday. In a conversation with Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, Putin described the crash as a tragic incident, but avoided taking direct responsibility for the downing of the aircraft. Preliminary investigations suggest the plane was struck by Russia's air defense system, which was reportedly responding to a Ukrainian drone attack targeting multiple cities. Sources indicate that Moscow's missile mistakenly hit the plane. U.S. officials added on Saturday that there are early indications suggesting Russian air defense system were responsible for bringing down a jet near the city of Aktau in Kazakhstan. An investigation has revealed that a Russian-linked tanker suspected of severing an undersea power cable between Finland and Estonia was outfitted with advanced surveillance technology. Finnish authorities have seized devices capable of intercepting and transmitting naval intelligence.
High-tech equipment, including listening and recording devices, was found aboard the Russian tanker seized by Finland, according to maritime publication Lloyd's List. Authorities investigating the case have since dubbed it a spy ship.
This is the first time where allies have said enough is enough, and this is a significant amping up of presence that shows NATO vigilance and NATO resolve in the region.
The ship was escorted by the Finnish border guard in connection with an investigation into the undersea power cable outage of Estlink 2 in the Baltic Sea. Now it is located in the waters of the Gulf of Finland. Eagle S is said to be one of the hundreds purchased by Russia after it launched the full-scale war in Ukraine in order to circumvent sanctions and illicitly trade oil. This time, sabotage was on the list too. The incident has prompted NATO to boost its military presence in the area while Western leaders work to put together a new package of sanctions, this time targeting LNG.
The main thing is to do this systematically to disrupt Russia's shadow fleet.
Finnish authorities and other authorities are talking a little bit tougher than before, where the aim of possible further operations is not merely to prevent this kind of sabotage from happening, but also to prevent the shadow fleet from functioning.
Finnish customs officials secured some 35,000 tons of unleaded gasoline, but that's just a drop in the bucket. It's estimated that since Moscow built up its fleet, it now accounts for 17% of the world's oil tankers.
Finnish authorities have detained a ship suspected of damaging undersea cables linking Finland and Estonia. Latvia's former Foreign Minister Artis Pabriks emphasized the need for stronger action to counter such threats in a statement to TVP World.
Because in October and November, these previous diversions were not treated enough hard, I think Moscow and maybe somebody else simply got a feeling that they can go unpunished through this. So, in fact, it is a very serious matter, because I would say that now countries around the Baltic Sea should simply monitor every ship coming from the Russian port or going to the Russian port and use all the possibilities to not only monitor but also to check these positions, because if they don't have anchors, they are not safe to travel. If they have dirty toilets, probably they are polluting environment. So we should use all the options simply to restrict such kind of travel up to the end, possibly also to have to close Baltic Sea for certain countries or certain types of ships.
New presidential elections in Romania are scheduled for March, following the annulment of December's result by the Constitutional Court, according to Bloomberg, citing Romanian political sources. The first round of voting is set for March 23rd, with a runoff planned for April 6th. The court annulled the December election due to allegations of foreign interference. The vote had been won by outsider candidate Călin Georgescu, with opposition candidate Elena Lasconi advancing to the runoff, surpassing rivals from Romania's three largest parties. Both Georgescu and Lasconi have criticized the annulment, with Georgescu denouncing it as a coup. The European Union has introduced a major initiative to reduce electronic waste. Starting today, most small mobile devices sold within the bloc must support USB-C charging. This regulation will extend to laptops beginning in 2026, marking a significant shift in consumer electronic standards.
It took a while, but we're finally there. All new mobile devices in the EU will now be standardized to feature what you know as USB-C. This modern and simple standard used for charging and data has grown predominant in mobile devices in recent years, but mostly because of the regulation coming into force on Saturday.
We are replacing this pile of chargers with just this. The simplest solutions are often the best and most practical ones.
Apart from reducing e-waste by 11,000 tons annually, other benefits of switching to USB-C, according to the EU, include saving money. Consumers will save approximately €250 million a year on unnecessary charger purchases, as now you won't need to buy a new charger for every device. The charging speed will be the same for compatible devices, which means that manufacturers will not be allowed to limit these speeds for chargers of a different make.
As for me, who travels a lot, I think this will be very comfortable, very convenient for people.
It's nice to have less charging cords, because now my MacBook, my other Apple devices use less of these cords.
I think it's much easier and more practical, yeah?
Work on a common charger in the EU began back in 2009. First, a voluntary agreement limited existing cell phone chargers on the market to 3. But one manufacturer, Apple, refused to cooperate and used its own proprietary Lightning port up until recently. The new compulsory rules were adopted in 2022. They cover a wide range of devices, including phones, tablets, headphones, digital cameras, and more. Laptops will join this list in just over 2 years.
In northern Poland, participants are attempting to set a new Guinness World Record with a 24-hour ice swimming relay. The event, which began on December 28th, highlights the health benefits of cold therapy and promotes safe practices for exposure to extreme temperatures.
The event will consist of a relay race, with individual contestants entering here and swapping seamlessly throughout the next 24 hours. 200 people, one after another, will enter the water, which will have a maximum temperature of 5 degrees. There's going to be an observer from the Guinness World Records present to make sure the water temperature never rises above that limit. It's going to be loads of fun.
I've been ice swimming for 5 years now, and really, I've noticed a big change for the better health-wise. It's very good for the joints, for the heart, and for your circulation. And most of all, it's a great source of fun and joy in the winter.
And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.